and sisters.
We shall not yield to tyranny.
Our cause just, we will prevail. The fight for our rights. Buffs.
Ready for a journey back? Look at this encampment. The spirit of 76 is alive.
Bobby, at this point, shame on you. Shame on you. Because we are being played as the American people. Our money is funding a war that we don't need to be in. I shouldn't be okay with it. So as long as I have breath in my body and a mic to use, I will be speaking out against this.
A true patriot savors these moments, but the fight for liberty calls.
The economy, we have a global economy. That's why we're a #1 economy in the world. I know that a lot of people want to paint the horrible view of America, but, you know, go live somewhere else and then tell me America's bad.
Patriotism is all about. Look at these flags. They represent our fight for liberty.
This is so freaking crazy to me that we have an conflict with Iran before a single person from the Epstein files has been arrested on American soil.
The hour of our liberty is at hand. For freedom is bravo. Brothers and sisters.
I was working, man, you know, but it's good to see Rippy out there handling business, man. And again, hey, that's a lot of black Trump supporters, man. I mean, it feels good to see them, man. So
My fellow patriots, the hour of decision is upon us. Let us march forth with courage to secure our liberty.
A real code. People are getting sick of it. The moment a celebrity steps slightly outside the leftist approved narrative, they get attacked. Chili from TLC gets heat over allegedly donating to Donald Trump.
For liberty. The British advance. We must act.
Our supplies are low, but morale is high.
Then we fight for liberty.
Payne's word captures the spirit of we fight for independence.
With welcome to my that said they were anti-war. I think they said no new wars. Yeah, they voted for a president that was not going to start any new wars. And what's funny to me is that not only were you lied to, not only did this man start this and get out of the
freedom. Greetings from the encampment. The spirit of liberty is strong. We will fight for our rights and our freedom.
Just in order to get the Greater Israel Project accomplished, you have to kill people. That's why it's wrong. Killing people is wrong, full stop. So you can try to make sense of it with, well, it's a threat and this and that. There's no greater threat than the United States empire.
To the encampment, for liberty.
And what I've learned, and I'm not a liberal or a Democrat. I voted for Trump the first time, but he's become a politician. He lies like all the other politicians. He deceives like all the other politicians.
Endures through every change and challenge. We stand at the dawn of liberty, unshaken by the trials ahead. Our cause in doing.
I'm going to go out on the limb and say anybody that sits in that oval does not like Americans. They love the United States, though, which is the politics. But they don't love the Americans. Americans are farmers. Americans are mechanics. Americans are school teachers. Americans are mom and pop businesses.
Soldiers, the enemy is near.
Not only do I love my FBA fam, my Black American fam, my Black people on code, you know, my people that's allies with us as part of the fam. I love y'all. I love my country too. You feel me?
People see my physique and assume I'm just some dumb Chad. But in reality, I graduated 5th in my law school class, magna cum laude. I got awards for getting the highest grade in my class in constitutional law, criminal law, and legal analysis and writing. I knew I was the smartest I'd ever been in my life.
The cause to victory.
To victory. These pastries are wonderful.
Indeed, but we must stay vigilant.
Today is to announce what the general just told you. The Southern Poverty Law Center, in a massive sweeping indictment, has been charged with allegations of fraud and using the banking system to perpetrate that fraud. I just want to talk about a couple brief things here. The Southern Poverty Law Center themselves advertise to raise money to dismantle violent extremist groups for a period of at least a decade. They use their donor network to raise money to purportedly dismantle violent extremist groups. However, the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, used the money they raised from their donor network to actually pay the leadership of these very groups. I just want to say that again. They used the fraudulently raised money by lying to their donor network, thousands of Americans, to go ahead and actually pay the leadership of these supposed violent extremist groups. The groups, as the general laid out, include the Ku Klux Klan, the United Klans of America, Unite to Right, National Alliance, the National Socialist Movement, the Aryan Nation Motorcycle Club, and the National Socialist Party of America, and also the American Front. In at least one of these matters, our investigation revealed that funds were used to facilitate the commission of further state and federal offenses, totaling over $3 million. Furthermore, our investigation revealed that the Southern Poverty Law Center, on top of perpetuating this widespread, decade-long, multi-million-dollar fraud, conducted more criminal activity. They attempted to hide their criminal activity from our financial banking network. They set up shell companies and entities around America so that the financial institutions that we rely on as everyday Americans were deceived in believing that money was not coming from the Southern Poverty Law Center in the perpetration of this scheme and fraud, but rather fictitious entities they stood up to perpetuate this ongoing fraud. This is a serious and egregious violation of a group that purported to dismantle violent extremist groups, but in turn actually only fueled the hatred. This is an important case brought by President Trump's administration. We're thankful for the president for his leadership and funding of not just the FBI and DOJ, but his commitment to go out there and wipe out fraud and conspiracy and waste and abuse wherever it occurs, including the Southern Poverty Law Center. Even though this money was made to appear to be coming from legitimate people and legitimate entities, we at the FBI, with our great partners at the Department of Justice and in the state of Alabama, were able to comb through a decade worth of material, a scheme that took a decade to build, so that we were able to follow the money, because money never lies, and they got caught. As the Attorney General said, these charges are varying, they are widespread and wide-ranging, and this investigation is very much ongoing. Today, we're here to announce the charges of the Southern Poverty Law Center, and this investigation and the individuals who are responsible will be brought to justice.
Disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on this panel show are those of the individual speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of this channel, its affiliates, sponsors, or production team. This content is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. Viewer discretion is advised. We encourage respectful dialogue and critical thinking around the topics discussed.
Described him as one of the most dangerous men on the face of the earth.
Welcome to the Man Cave. Welcome to the Man Cave. I'm Gray Mars.
I'm Kamal.
I'm Skeptic.
85 Slim.
And we got Ken Billions in the corner. So, Kamal, what do you think about a left-wing organization being accused of being racist, essentially?
I think a lot of motherfuckers need to apologize to Nick Cannon. Man, look, I know, to me, both parties be on the bullshit. You know what I mean? But we're going to stick to the Democrats today, you feel me? And that's a cold game they played, man. Who did it better, them or the Somalians? The scamming at an all-time goddamn high, that's crazy, y'all. They literally said, yeah, we're going to send informants into the KKK to dismantle that terrorist group, but instead was funding them. God damn. That's some cold work, you feel me?
For sure. So if people don't know who they are, I'm actually going to play a clip, just a short clip that lets say who they actually are.
Prior to the founding of the Southern Poverty Law Center, young lawyer Joe Levin and myself had been practicing law, and I had been practicing law doing civil rights work. And we decided that we couldn't afford to run this operation just out of our pockets. And so we incorporated as a nonprofit to see if we could seek financial help from around the country. The first lawsuits we filed was kind of a mopping up operation after the civil rights movement that we think of. It ended with Dr. King's death, but it left a lot of things undone. And one of the major groups of lawsuits we originally filed back then was to open the voting and elective office possibilities for blacks, voting rights cases. I guess the second one was to open public employment up to African Americans. In 1965, when Wallace's troopers beat up the marchers at the Selma Bridge, they were all white. In 1970, we filed the lawsuit to integrate the Alabama State Troopers. The next big general area that we moved into after that was trying to dismantle major hate groups. The Klan had bombed the church in Birmingham that killed the little girls, and I'd always vowed that if any way I could ever go after those people that did it, I would. Over the years, because of the work that we've done here at this center, there have been at least 35 people put in prison for trying to harm myself and our property and people that work for us. Our building was burned in 1984 by a Klansman because of the case that we did. But you know, when you start doing this work, you don't think about what's going to happen. I don't think it's any particular bravery involved in it. I just think that people who are dedicated to the work they do just push forward.
So, Ken, after hearing that, do you feel like the Southern Poverty Law Center is a legitimate, helpful company, nonprofit, really, because it's actually helped the community?
I don't know, because how do you prosecute this? How do you move forward?
He froze. Slim, what's your thoughts on both of them froze, him and Skip?
Oh, well, you know, I'm not surprised. I mean, why not fund your establishment, especially when you created that motherfucker? You know what I'm saying? I've been saying for a long time, the damn Democrats are the ones that created the Ku Klux Klan. So don't be surprised that they're funding their organization on the low. You can't be surprised. Y'all always go with the narrative. Sorry, the Democrats always go with the narrative of racism is this and white supremacy that. I don't believe in it, but hey, it is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, I just love when they get exposed for this shit they always try to throw at us. That's the most beautiful thing to watch on a daily basis. It's fucking fire. And make sure you play that clip when Kash Patel came at that Democrat donkey for asking that dumbass question about drinking, and he broke with the. You remember the girl asked him the question about drinking. Do you be drunk on the job? You got that clip? How you came back, or you ain't trying to play it?
No, Nora talk about it more tomorrow, but I'll play it anyway. I'll play it.
Make sure you be doing these type of things. What I'm saying. You know?
But this is what they responded to when they were accused of racism, basically.
For 55 years, the Southern Poverty Law Center has stood as a beacon of hope, fighting white supremacy and various forms of injustice to create a multiracial democracy where we can all live and thrive. We are therefore unsurprised to be the latest organization targeted by this administration. They have made no secret of who they want to protect and who they want to destroy. For example, in October, FBI Director Kash Patel announced the Bureau would sever its ties with the SPLC. And in December, House Republicans held a hearing to accuse us of being partisan and profitable. The latest threat is the most serious: a criminal investigation and possible charges against the SPLC or some of our employees. Although we don't know all the details, the focus appears to be on the SPLC's prior use of paid confidential informants to gather credible intelligence on extremely violent groups. This use of informants was necessary because we are no stranger to threats of violence. In 1983, our offices were firebombed, and in the years since, there have been countless credible threats against our staff. For decades, we engaged in unprecedented litigation to dismantle the Klan and other hate groups. In light of that work, we sought to protect the safety of our staff and the public. We frequently shared what we learned from informants with local and federal law enforcement, including the FBI. We did not, however, share our use of informants broadly with anyone to protect the identity and safety of the informants and their families. And while we no longer work with paid informants, we continue to take their safety seriously.
So, Skeptic, you critique the right a lot on them being racist. And do you feel like them paying informants, does that make them racist, or does that just strategic to try to get information?
Well, I think it could be a multifaceted like issue, right? And I think what he is kind of letting you know is that this administration is very biased, right? So I think it's interesting the allegation that's being made, and I think I'd like to see more evidence on it. However, I will say, regardless of one thing is true, right? That I agree with Slim. It doesn't matter whether or not you believe in racism, right? The system of America, the fact that the the KKK even exists in America, the fact that you have the Proud Boys, the fact that you had systematic discrimination in the American system for years and years, and the Confederacy was a real thing. It goes to show you that racism is real, right? Whether you believe in it or not, it definitely existed. And when you look at the political aspect of it, when it comes to America, both political groups were racist. Both political groups at one time were okay with kind of like sugarcoating hatred, right? So if Democrats are racist, then Democrats are racist. Like I don't care what side of the political spectrum you fall on. If you have hate in your heart and you do not like somebody because they look different than you, then I don't agree with you. I don't agree with your idea of it. Now, historically speaking, we know that politically an affiliation with political ideology has changed. And it happened with what they called the Southern strategy. When you see a change between how the Southerners were voting, they were voting Republican or they were voting Democrat, and then they flipped and started voting Republican because of the ideas that they were voting for. So I don't necessarily know whether or not this law firm or whatever nonprofit is doing things that are wrong or that are against the law. And I would like to see more evidence on it before we kind of start slinging mud at them. I do know, however, that this is kind of like smoke and mirrors trying to take away what's currently going on right now. The Strait of Hormuz, after he said that it was open, wasn't open. It almost seems like they're trying to divert our attention from what actually matters into something that is kind of being overconflated.
For sure. So one of the biggest things is that one of the informants paid for the Charlottesville rally where a protest was actually killed by a vehicle.
This investigation was opened during the Biden administration and then mysteriously closed. I really don't have any information about why it was closed. And then we started again last year. The FBI did, working with the U.S. Attorney in Alabama. And it's extraordinarily egregious. You just talked about it. But imagine a donor to the SPLC if they were told, by the way, we're going to give the money you're giving us to the Ku Klux Klan. Okay? Like, in some cases, over $1 million. I mean, it's incredible.
Now, they say they're no longer using these informants in this way and that it was necessary because they had all sorts of threats against the organization, firebombing threats and other acts of purported violence. And that's why they had to use these informants. And to that, you say?
Well, to that I say, for one, the indictment charges all the way through 2023. So I'm here to speak about what they're doing right now, but that indictment charges a long period of time through 2023. And second, and more importantly, there's no allegation or information in the indictment that suggests they shared that information with law enforcement. They have communicated.
They said they did.
Well, they have communicated when they so chose with law enforcement over the years. There's no information that we have that suggests that the money that they were paying to these informants and these members of these organizations, they then turned around and shared what they learned with law enforcement. To the contrary, or else we would have known from their own words that they had given this money to these guys, and we didn't know it.
What about Charlottesville and the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally? Were they involved in that?
Yes. So what we allege in the indictment and what the grand jury found is that one of the individuals that they paid was one of the folks who helped organize that terrible event. And so so imagine what we're talking about, Laura. We're talking about an organization that actively came out and just screamed it from the top of their lungs.
So just so people understand watching this, did these informants in some cases, given the evidence you've seen, actually initiate what would ultimately be these activities? And obviously Charlottesville ended with a tragedy.
Well, we know that they were part of those. They were part of it. Whether they were the leaders or the initiators, that'll come out, I think, eventually. But what we do know is that the very entities that this group was raising money to go against are the very entities that they were taking the money in and paying to these entities and these individuals associated with those groups.
What was the money used for?
Well, we don't know, because again, all we know is that they set up these fictitious bank accounts.
Fake names, like the Constitution Group or whatever it was called. Then they had one called Fox Photography.
Right, completely fictitious as far as the investigation.
Doc, is the Southern Poverty Law Center responsible for the young lady that lost her life that day because they had an informant that paid for this event?
Yeah, I think so. With just hearing some of the dialogue right there, if you uproot some of these groups that they're giving this money to and move them to a Middle East country, we call them a T group, with the politics and the strategy and the things that they believe in. So just because these groups are predominantly Caucasian, we don't call them terrorists, but these groups could be seen as having terroristic ideology. And if you're going to give terrorists $1 million, you could have spent $1 million on security if you felt that threat. What could he have told you that, you probably couldn't secure yourself from? So I think that they probably are responsible. I mean, I'm thinking like they giving them 20,000 or, a little 10 piece, a little 10 ball or something, you know what I'm saying? Something for them boys to get, have a long weekend with. $1 million, bro, you can hire like pretty good security with $1 million. You could have probably thwarted some threats with $1 million. Instead of giving the money to informants, you could have got you some dudes who had some government connections with, because that's what they say, but they probably spent more than that. So I think, yeah, they do have some sort of responsibility and culpability for giving these guys the financial resources to be able to take care of some of these acts.
For sure. So this is what a question was asked when they were talking about indicted them.
One more question, sir.
I have an on-topic and off-topic. On the Southern Poverty Law Center, my understanding was from the video that the group posted today that this program about paying the informants had ended. I wasn't clear about when that was. Do you have any information about when this program stopped paying informants, and then if there's a statute of limitations issue there? I just wasn't sure how far back we're talking. And then I have another on-topic one.
So look, all I can tell you is the indictment alleges a very long period of time that includes up to 2023. So that's I can't speak beyond, when it, if anything has been happening since then, just what the grand jury found.
Ken, what's your thoughts? I know we had lost you, so what's your thoughts on this whole situation?
Man, when I watched the movie Lord of War, with the character was an arms dealer, and he was funding both sides. I think all these groups fund both sides. I don't think there's good guys or bad guys. I think it just is. And I think they play on both sides depending on what the lick looks like. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think that's what we're watching here. Seems like they're against something, but they're funding the other side. You know what I mean? So that means whoever loses, we still win, no matter what. So I think they all fund the same side. Same. It's all Vince McMahon. Same WWF shit on both sides, though.
For sure. So Doc was talking about the money. So we'll play how much money was actually spent. Then each of us can say, what we think about the amount of money that was actually spent.
Examples. That first one, the $1 million to National Alliance affiliate neo-Nazi group. This is alleging that they paid $1 million to someone to break into their facilities and steal boxes of their documents. Another example is Charlottesville. The Southern Poverty Law Center accused of secretly paying an informant with donor funds. Donors are paying for this, who helped plan the 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. This informant, Jonathan, allegedly attended the rally, helped coordinate transportation for attendees, and was paid $270,000 between 2015 and 2023. So instead of dismantling it, they were helping to finance it. Here.
What you think about the amount of money spent on play?
I thought America was broke. They always tell us Black Americans, America goddamn broke when it come to us, right? Them motherfuckers, man. All that goddamn money. I ain't surprised though. I mean, shit. Remember that white lady raised $1 million for saying nigga to a little black boy? Why should we be surprised with this shit? They getting all the money. I'll take it back, Somalian people. Y'all not the Michael Jordan in the skin. Y'all might be the Scottie Pippen, but we know who the Michael Jordan in the skin. We see it right here, y'all. God damn.
So I'm gonna play the guy that made Dilbert because we talked about him before. Kamal, you was on that show.
Yeah,
and
he a cracker.
Yeah, he tried to get saved right before he died, but this is what he had to say about them.
Meanwhile, the SPLC has labeled the Turning Point USA organization a hate group, and they've added them to their hate map. Now, remember how I always tell you that if you know what happened, you might not know anything. But if you know who was involved, well, now you might know something. And Turning Point USA has been doing a tremendous job of public events, and Charlie Kirk in particular has been just killing it on these public events where he's sort of debating people in public. If your job is to identify ghosts, are you going to find any ghosts? Of course you will, because you get paid for it. If your job is to identify hate groups, are you going to find some new hate groups every year? Or are you going to find all the ones that exist, and then you say, we don't even need any funding for the next year. I don't even know why we have a staff. We found all the hate, and we did our map, so maybe we'll check back in a year to update it. No, they're going to find some extra hate. So you can't trust anybody who gets paid by the amount of hate they identify. They're going to find some hate. But is it real? No. Turning Point USA is nothing like a hate group. Not even close.
Is that you, Slim?
What's that?
That guy.
Man, that's facts, bro. Like, at the end of the day, he broke it down real smooth, and it's what they do, man. They manipulate. That's how they get down. And there's a lot of people involved, man. It ain't no, this is good versus evil. I don't think it's a two-sided thing. I think it's good versus evil. And the evil is getting exposed on a constant basis. Like, at the end of the day, I said this shit before on one of the shows that the Democratic Party created the Ku Klux Klan. Today's Ku Klux Klan are just wearing uniforms. They're police officers, they're judges, they're in different positions, you know what I mean? Because of the way the world is today. So to be G with you, I'm not surprised. I'm just glad that it's happening. I'm just glad that it's finally being exposed.
Wait, so real quick, so Democrats evil, Republicans good?
No, there's evil people with the Democrats. There's some evil people with the Republicans.
Some or the same amount?
I wouldn't say the same amount. That I wouldn't say.
So it's more evil people on the Democrats?
Yes. The Democrats are evil. If that's what you're trying to get me to say, yes. They fucking evil. They demons. Okay, so and it's some evil people in the Republican Party. There's evil people all over the place, but I'm talking about the Democrats specifically because of their policies, chopping off penises, shit like that type shit.
Okay. So question. So what does the Republican Party do with their evil? Can they be an example of what should happen when people in the party are evil? Are they living out what that looks like?
I don't know what you mean by that. Explain that shit.
If it's evil in the Republican Party, the fellow Republicans, how do they go about it so they can use that as an example? So when the Democrats clean their shit up, the Republicans have a blueprint of how it's supposed to look.
The problem is we got to clean up the Democrat Party shit first. That's just what it is. Fuck all that.
You just skip right over that. You skip right over that.
That shit don't even mean nothing, bro. That space age shit. You go again with that space age stuff. Listen, bro, the Democrat Party, from their policies to how they treat people to how they fucking
They protesting in the street. All that shit is wrong, bro. The Democrats are the only ones that will discontinue their family members because of who someone supports. Republicans don't do that shit, bro. We don't move like that. It's how they move. It's the ideologies. It's how they being taught. The programming is all that shit is making them evil. Even going against God that's evil to me, bro.
I'm glad you said.
I don't care what you are. You go against God. That's a problem.
I'm glad you said ideology, Slim, because ideologically wise, the Ku Klux Klan is no different than Turning Point USA.
How?
Because hold on. I'm explaining to you how, because I started this off. They hate someone based on their ideology.
Ooh,
they hate someone.
Give me one person they hate. Give me one.
They hate trans people.
You think
say, give me one. I just gave you a whole group, Slim. Slim. Now, let me get my shout out. Ideologically, they're no different than the Ku Klux Klan. Turning Point USA is no different. They hate people based on what they believe in, and someone else doesn't demonstrate. Not something that doesn't affect them at all. Someone else can't change. It doesn't change their life at all. But because they believe it so strongly, they hate this other person for doing it. So they hate them the same way. So ideologically, they're in line. And I'm not saying TPUSA is the only one who does it. There are a lot of groups who do that. But I'm saying ideologically, when you move it along those lines, the way that they've been talking and moving and treating people who disagree or don't align with their religious belief, because everybody isn't going to believe what you believe. And I don't spew hate towards people because they're Muslim or they're trans or they want to dress as a woman and they were born. I don't do it. It ain't my cup of tea, but I don't spew hate towards that. And they do, and they have that gives off the same ideology as the KKK.
Let me ask you this, bro. What is your example of hate when it comes to Turning Point USA? What video have you seen? What statements? Because I've been watching Charlie Kirk for years. I've never seen him hate on anyone. So what's your definition?
I didn't say Charlie Kirk as a single person, although I can give you examples. I said Turning Point USA as a group, as well as I said the group, the KKK. You want me to break it down into one person? You want to live these principles for one person?
Give me one example of Turning Point.
I give you an example, Slim. I'm gonna go to Skeptic. The main thing that they share about Charlie Kirk when they say hate is the black pilot thing. That's the thing that always goes viral.
And what's so hateful about that?
It's based on race.
You think so? You don't think it was based on DEI and basically if they're hiring people because they have to hire at a certain percentage, you're not qualified to fly a plane that's basically designed to hold livelihood? If you getting a heart transplant and you getting a new doctor just because they hired him because he's black, you gonna trust him to change your heart?
I'm trying to move it off.
I'm gonna get. Time out. I'm gonna go to the next one. You're not gonna convince him. So Skeptic, they're saying this is a false indictment. I'm just gonna play a clip of this because it's very long, but I'll let you elaborate on it.
Administration indicted the Southern Poverty Law Center, and I have a piece of paper in this room that cost $150,000 that qualifies me to tell you why that indictment is a load of crap. I'm Christopher Russell. My law degree is from Wake Forest University. The first 6 charges of the 11-charge indictment are under 18 U.S.C. 1343. 1343 is the wire fraud statute. That means that I take something I shouldn't have by means of a false or fraudulent misrepresentation. That means that they are alleging that the Southern Poverty Law Center got donations from its donors across the country under false pretenses. Since 1971, the Southern Poverty Law Center has been an important part of tracking extremist groups in the United States of America. This is something that an extremist administration does not like. Many people within the administration have taken personal issue with the Southern Poverty Law Center, particularly because they are often in charge of or donate large sums of money to organizations that the SPLC has designated as a hate group. This is important because the false or misleading statements that constitute the wire fraud that the government is alleging SPLC has committed has to do with the purpose of the SPLC. They do things like identify hate groups. Part of how they do that is by having confidential informants, just like a journalist. As part of this, they have, for a substantial chunk of their history, potentially their entire history, paid their confidential informants. And if you pay a confidential informant who is inside of a hate group, then you are paying a hate group indirectly, and that's not the point of the payment, but nevertheless, that's what Southern Poverty Law Center does. It's how they have good inside information. It's why they are so incredibly reliable at identifying the activities and members of hate groups in the United States. So the government is saying,
all right, that's a long clip, but Skeptic, you wanted more information. It's still just basically focused on the informants. So and I know I asked this earlier, but how they talked about racism and things like that. Do you feel like law enforcement needs to use these type of strategies to stop racism?
I think they have. I don't know if it's ethical or not. I guess that argument could be made either way. I will say this really quickly, and then I'll move back to the subject. DEI does not constitute that you have to hire a certain race percentage-wise. DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion, and accessibility. So actually, and it's not even a law, it was a policy that companies were implementing to create more equity, and it actually benefited white women more than anybody else. So it's kind of funny to say that it applies to the Black community when it actually applied to white women more than anyone. Anyways, but I'll move from that. Hold on. I'll say this. The interesting part and the hypocritical part of what we're saying right now is that TPS, whatever USA, they raised almost $40 million for the march on January 6th. So are we also going to indict TPUSA because the laws were broken? Are we also going to look at them and say that they are, that was whatever they're doing now, right? Because they had to have paid people. A federal building was broken into. One police officer ended up in the hospital. I think multiple were hurt, but only one actually succumbed to his injuries because he had a heart condition. You had all these people that got hurt. So if this is what we're going to do, then when Democrats and this new blue wave that's coming in during midterms comes in, we should also indict these groups of people that are nonprofits or that are, trying to incite violence by creating these marches like they did on January 6th. See, conservatives don't think ahead. They think about instant gratification. They want what feels good right now. And so this is going to make them feel good. This is a good deter from everybody who's upset about the war. This is a good deter from all the conservatives that are coming out like Tucker Carlson that are saying, I'm sorry that I got behind this administration. I made a mistake. This is trying to put a bunch of smoke and mirrors up so that we don't actually look at what's really going on. And in reality, this nation is in a crisis because we chose an incompetent person to be our president. And like I said before, it just gives me the vibe that they're just making a big drama to deter us from looking at what really matters. I'd like to see the evidence. And if it's wire fraud that you're saying they committed, also let's look at TPU and say, where's the $40 million they raised? Who got paid for that? 270 seems like a lot for someone that's, putting together a march. 40 million seems like way more for what happened on January 6th.
Okay, so Kamal, I'm going to get you in here. I'm going to play your favorite person. What is an informant?
Informants, right? You have different types. So I'll break this down. You have source of information, right? That can be just a regular person that wants to come forward, maybe a good Samaritan, maybe someone that used to be a criminal, etc. SOI, source of information. Then you have a cooperating defendant where they might either already have charges against them or they have charges that you can levy against them. Cooperating defendant. Then you got confidential informant. This is someone that signed up, right? They have a CI number. They got when you write about them in reports, you're writing their CI number. You're never using their name, etc. They're documented. They're getting paid. They're getting some type of benefit, typically immigration benefits, maybe, etc. So whenever you have informants, you have to weigh their benefit versus the cost. No matter what anyone tells you, informants are a pain in the ass because 9 out of 10 times the best informants are criminals. So therefore, that means that they're in the game. They're doing a bunch of bullshit. They might get arrested. And it comes down to how important is the case? Who can they get you? And, how much risk are you willing to weigh? Because, they could do some bullshit, right? And a lot of agents actually, The best agents have informants, but most federal agents don't have informants because it's a headache and it's a lot of paperwork. And I'll be honest with you, most government employees in general are fucking lazy. I was one of the only crazy people that would have multiple signed up informants. I'd have SOIs, I'd have cooperating defenses, etc. And the importance of that is you need them telling you different things because they'll be privy to different, especially when you're doing like organized crime or conspiracy cases, they'll be privy to different parts of the conspiracy. And also it helps you corroborate if your informant's telling you the truth. If he tells you XYZ does XYZ, and then the next guy tells you, yeah, XYZ does XYZ, it adds credibility to that informant. So, and then that information is better. I could take that to a judge. That's my probable cause. I get a warrant for a phone or a house or whatever it may be. And more than one source is always better to, you know, beef up your probable cause. A lot of agents don't like that because it's a lot of work. But when it comes to assessing, it really comes down to risk versus reward of this guy's a fucking hothead. He's crazy, but is it worth it to do the case? A lot of the times, especially when you're dealing with like gang members or whatever, sometimes they could be violent criminals. And that just kind of comes into play. Obviously, you got ground rules for them. Hey, you ain't going to fucking shoot nobody. You ain't going to hurt nobody. You're not going to be involved in anything. You're just going to go to meetings and be a fly in the wall. But that's difficult to do when they're higher ranking or whatever it may be. That's why it's very important when you're getting informants, you got to get someone in the middle.
Kamal's extremist groups worth having informants? Do we need informants to control extremist groups?
To control them? I don't know if I want informants to control them. You just heard Ahmed just basically say that these niggas is erratic and wild. I don't know if I want them controlling the goddamn terrorist extremist groups. But I will say one thing though, right? We have known that informants have been in our groups. I'm talking about our Black American groups. And they use them all the goddamn time. All right? So do I mind them using informants for the KKK shit? No, it's all with the territory. But I don't want them controlling the shit. You feel me? I want to know wild ass, somebody wild like that's basically a hothead controlling a goddamn extremist group. I don't want that.
So I'm gonna play a funny clip because about now, basically, people saying that the left wing whole thing is a hoax because of this whole situation.
Your eyes. Remember what you saw on television. Remember seeing those neo-Nazis and Klansmen and white supremacists coming out of fields with lighted torches. And remember what the president said when asked?
And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
Their veins bulging.
He said specifically that he was condemning them.
No, he did not. He said he walked out and he said, let's get this straight. The veins bulging on their, as they were screaming. Remember, just close your eyes and picture what it was. Their veins bulging. Their veins bulging. Nazi sympathizers carrying Nazi fags.
Veins bulging.
It's their veins bulging. Veins bulging.
Veins bulging.
How are you, baby? How old are you? Their veins bulging. It's their veins bulging. Bulging. Veins. Well, I'm sick and tired.
All right, that was lamer than I thought it was gonna be. But
that shit was weak.
For sure.
You expect.
So Doc brought up Charlie Kirk. So I'm gonna play what Charlie Kirk actually had to say about this when he was asked.
Southern Poverty Law Center has now labeled, you're in the club with me, by the way, they've labeled Turning Point as a hate group.
Yes, it's a
coming
surprise.
from a hateful group like
it's
them.
surprised it took them so long to get us on the list.
What took you so long, Charlie?
Understand that they're literally putting high school chapters of ours on a hate group next to the KKK and next to neo-Nazi groups. And I mean, we can laugh this off. There's an element to this. Remember that there was a shooter that went to the Family Research Council years ago, inspired by the SPLC list. This is them trying to make us basically surrender at Turning Point USA. We're going to do the opposite, and our students are only going to lean in even more. But they can't debate us on our ideas. They cannot have dialogue. They cannot actually go onto the merits of why they are right or why we might be wrong. Instead, they must smear us with the age-old one-liner that you are a racist or that you are a hater. And they're finally realizing the power of Turning Point USA, which is why they put us on this list.
Well, when you're effective, you're a threat, right?
That's
so
right.
they call me the high priestess of hate, right, Sam? Is that what they call me? I'm just,
Congratulations.
2008. Oh, it's old. It's so old. But again, the Democrats, I think they appeal to a certain very whiny man.
That's right.
It's at the pajama boy, whatever they're calling him.
Do you remember that Obamacare advertisement?
I never forgot that guy.
It was the archetype of the liberal
what
man.
they think a man
yes,
is.
that's right. Never standing up for yourself, very feelings-based, no assertion, no drive, no grit. Almost always pandering to the zeitgeist of the times, where it turns out, especially in the heartland of this country, the American man is still alive and he wants his country back. And they showed up in record numbers for President Trump, and they're rejecting the Democrat Party. They're the backbone class of this country. They make the country work. They're largely forgotten. And the Democrats spending $20 million on video game advertisements.
Let them spend the money.
All right, Doc, what's your response to Charlie Kirk?
The Red Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan doesn't think he's in a hate group. He thinks he's in a group that just supports white men that want to see the best for white men. He doesn't think he's in a hate group. He doesn't label himself as a hate group. He labeled himself, when you meet these people, because I met a couple dudes who was and whooped their ass before, you know what I'm saying, a couple times. But they think of themselves as just having pride. They don't think of themselves as their hate, because they have tricked themselves. It's like when we was in the army. We don't think we over there doing nothing wrong. We over here for patriotism, baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we believe that. You know what I mean? And I think it's a lot of, when you're there, you see things through a certain lens. So when people are living that and in that group, they see it through a certain lens. So they just don't see it as a hate group. So whether or not Charlie Kirk thinks he was in a hate group or not, or whether that was his intention, the KKK started off as a social club. You know what I mean? So sometimes things morph into something that you don't have any control over, and him not being here is going to make sure that he has absolute, no control over. So I think he's just off base. He can't see it because it's his baby.
For sure. So I think the big thing about this is about the government lying to us. So Ken, I'm gonna go to you. So this is about what happened in Mexico, where it was 2 CIA agents that got killed, and Mexico didn't even know that they were over there.
Another Fox News alert: 2 CIA officers are dead after a fiery crash in Mexico, just hours after a major narco raid. Senior national correspondent Kevin Cork is live with more. Kevin.
Evening, Jesse. A pair of embassy workers working apparently for the CIA dead following that fiery crash in Mexico over the weekend. In fact, in all, I should say, 5 people died in that accident. We're told that there were also a pair of investigators from Mexico. Now, this is all said to be related to that massive drug lab near Chihuahua. The Post first reporting that the car skidded off the road and then exploded as it fell down a massive ravine. Clearly, this was not some routine trip. They were coming back from this counter-narcotics operation. Now, the officers were apparently part of a quietly expanding CIA effort targeting drug trafficking in the region. In case you didn't know, yes, Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, not too happy about it. She's raising new questions tonight about whether that operation broke her nation's national security laws.
Until now, the information we have is that they were working together. Let's put it that way. Then all the investigation has to be done by the public prosecutor's office to see if the Constitution or the national security law was violated.
Now, Sheinbaum says she did speak with President Trump about the accident, adding that the two exchanged condolences, but really didn't get into much detail about the apparent operation. This comes amid escalating pressure on Mexico for the White House to crack down on cartels. And so tonight, what we're really looking at, Jesse, is 2 countries fighting the very same drug war, but clearly not playing by necessarily the same rules. And that raises even more questions about just how far these operations will go and who ultimately is really in control. Very interesting dealings down in Mexico.
So, Ken, what do we do? You always talk about empire games. So what do we do about all these lies coming from the government? Whether it's the Southern Law Poverty Center or law enforcement agencies, why is the public constantly getting lied to?
Because the public ain't going to do nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's NBA playoffs right now, bro. You know what I'm saying? The public ain't gonna do nothing. Memorial Day's about to come up. Miami's about to be cracking. You know what I'm saying? Then it's 4th of July. You know what I mean? Kids is out of school. People about to turn up. Ain't nobody doing shit. You know what I'm saying? So you just said it. It's empire. Nobody's gonna do anything. And I don't think it's the two countries fighting a drug war. We make money on drugs. Drugs is a part of the American fabric. You know what I'm saying? That shit is here to stay. Politicians play with their nose. NBA players play with their nose. Executives play with their nose. You know what I'm saying? Cocaine built Miami. You know what I'm saying? Drugs ain't going nowhere. You know what I mean? So if our boys, our CIA was out there, they was probably trying to get bricks for the low. Because that's what we do. That's not conspiracy either. Ask Gary Webb. That's what we do. You know what I'm saying? So
hold on a minute. We streaming on my channel, so I'm gonna say allegedly for King. I don't want him to be Tasha Cade or something.
You know what's crazy, Ken, to what you're saying? They've actually conducted studies. I'm like a nerd. I'm really am a nerd. They've conducted studies about salmon or whatever, however you say it, in Florida and sharks. Do you know that in their systems they have they have consumed cocaine from the water, and they are like they actually have it in their systems. So like whether you know it or not, sometimes if you consume that fish, like if you're out there fishing and then you consume that fish, you're getting it trickled down from the ingested cocaine from those fishes that have it. And also fish, they can like take in, even if it's a small amount of cocaine, it affects them a lot more than it does us per se.
Oh no, you're right. You're right. I ate a fish sandwich the other day, and I know some good coke, and it was definitely in there.
We have to raise the price on that fish.
That shit crazy, because I would think like when you cook the fish, it would burn that shit off. Apparently, it don't. Shit.
So speaking of drugs and drinking, Slim, I'm gonna play the video you want me to play because that's what Cash Patel was accused of.
Job. I'm the first one in. I'm the last one out. I'm like an everyday American who loves his country, loves the sport of hockey, and champions my friends when they raise a gold medal and invite me in to celebrate. I've never been intoxicated on the job, and that is why we filed a $250 million defamation lawsuit. And any one of you that wants to participate, bring it on. I'll see you in court.
Computer login issue. Just explain the computer login issue. You were not able to log into your lawsuit contends that you were not able to log into the system. What did you think after you were unable to log into the system?
Let's have a survey. How many of you people believe that's true? Hang on.
Did you communicate?
You asked the question. Let me answer it.
No, let me.
No.
Did you communicate with anyone that you thought you were fired after you were unable to log into?
The problem with you and your report. Don't cut me off. You asked the question.
Straightforward question.
The problem with you and your baseless reporting is that is an absolute lie. It was never said. It never happened. And I will serve in this administration as long as the president and the attorney general want me to do so. And every time you guys report false lies, every time you guys raise baseless questions, when we are here to talk about the Southern Poverty Law Center's $3 million decade-long scheme to fraudulently fleece Americans, you are off topic.
Straightforward question. Did you talk to anybody about whether you thought
The simple answer to your question is you are lying. And every time you do so, I've answered your question. It's simply as follows. I was never locked out of my systems. Anybody who says it, anyone that says the opposite is lying. Thank you.
Look, man, stop. You're being extraordinarily rude. And I know maybe that's part of your profession, but please just stop. If you ask a question, he can answer it. And then wait, now you're interrupting me. Like just a little bit of respect, man. Just a tiny little bit. Try it sometime. Go ahead.
Man, that ain't the clip, bro. That was the day, but it's what the accomplishments that he brought out. That's what I wanted you to hear. What they've done with this FBI director as opposed to the last FBI directors. Those are the numbers I wanted you to hear. He broke down numbers and what they've done since he's had the job. That's more important than that bullshit.
So that's the same thing. He broke down the numbers in that same reporter.
That same day, but it was a girl that asked him about his drinking specifically, and then he came back and he was like, "Let me tell you what I've been doing," And it was right before that. It was just, you know, you cut all the good shit out.
So what they saying? They say he got a drinking problem because he was drinking with the hockey team when they won the gold medal.
Nah, they tried. Nora know what I'm talking about.
But also, like, didn't they leak his pictures and stuff? And he was like acting goofy. Like, I don't know. I would have asked just because I'm petty. I would have been like, "Are you drunk now? Have you had a drink today?" He would have spiraled out. That man has.
He don't look drunk though.
Hold up, allegedly, because everything
Just as being petty.
True, right? But what he said that they've done since they've been in office and he had that job is fucking phenomenal to me.
I put it like
I think I found it, Slim. Hold on, let me see.
Yeah, man.
Let me.
Maybe his crazy eyes make him look. Them eyes, he bugs out. He looks off.
He got coke eyes.
That your unexplained absences.
Is this it, Slim?
Hold on.
And beyond that, can you say definitively that you have not been intoxicated
yes.
or absent during your tenure as FBI director?
I can say unequivocally that I never listen to the fake news mafia. And as when they get louder, it just means I'm doing my job. This FBI director has been on the job twice as many days as every director before me. What that means is I've taken half as many days off as those before me. What that means is I've taken a third less vacation than those before me. What that means is that this FBI with this Department of Justice has dropped the murder rate 20 points. What that means is this FBI with this Department of Justice has captured 8 of the top 10 most wanted fugitives in the world, twice as many as the Biden administration did in its entire 4 years. What that means is this FBI has seized enough fentanyl off the streets to kill 178 million Americans, a 31% increase. What that means is this FBI and this DOJ has arrested 43% more spies in 14 months than the entirety of the Biden administration. What that means is this FBI has seen a reduction in opioid overdose deaths up to 20% alone. What that means is that we have found 6,300 child victims, 6,300 families have their kids back. That is a 22% increase from the Biden administration. I'm on the job. I'm the first one in. I'm the last one out. I'm like an everyday American who loves his country, loves the sport of hockey, and champions my friends when they raise a gold medal.
All right, yeah. So
yeah. He not drunk. The nigga allegedly on coke, man. I know coke eyes when I see him.
They all are. They all are.
He could be drunk. He could be on whatever. If he found 6,300 children, you gotta salute that and stop hating, man.
Yeah, I salute him on that. I'm just saying, we gotta be real, man. The niggas in the 80s used to hoop in Converse and would be doing coke every other time out. Now I don't think, bro, drunk. We know drunk is. You feel me? Like Kamala Harris allegedly hear her speak is slurred. His speech ain't slurred. He just bugged died out. It's either coke or Adderall.
That's crazy.
Why focus on those things, though, bro?
I just want to know, like,
is found by a bug-eyed dude. I'll take it.
How is he taking like the fact that homicides are down 20%? How does the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, how do they take accountability for that? Like, wouldn't that be like by jurisdiction, local, I guess, law enforcement and what the mayors are doing in their area? That would probably affect the homicide rate more than the FBI.
Well, you're talking about the same person where it was supposed to be a state case with Charlie Kirk getting murdered, and he flew over there doing that investigation. So he doesn't follow the rules. So we're basically talking about, the government as secret. So this guy got caught giving up classified information. So we're each going to answer if we would be able to keep classified information.
The son. His son. If he does the same way as did everything films, we're gonna shoot missiles and destroy some stuff.
Yeah.
But if you want to win, if you want to make the country do what you want, you have to put people there.
I was hearing something that we killed kids in the car. Did we actually?
I think there's been some collateral damage. Yeah, for sure. They always die in war. Yeah. So nerve agent is a chemical weapon. It's like Pandora's box.
A nuclear and chemical safety branch chief in the United States Department of the Army spills detailed information about their possession of nerve agents.
And lungs won't work, your mouth won't work, nothing will work.
Revealing that a U.S. Army chemist was exposed to the nerve agent due to careless handling.
She's supposed to wear all this gear, and she's like, I don't like it. She just wore Crocs and her own clothes.
Yeah.
and so it's soaked in her clothes. And it's soaked very well on her skin. So she could literally start touching stuff. Other people would touch like a door.
So we'll start at the top. Skeptic, could you keep classified information?
I would like to believe that I could, but I wouldn't want to know classified information because I feel like it comes with a lot of responsibility.
Kamal?
Can I keep classified information? I'm gonna plead the fifth on that. But I'll tell you this though, the one thing you could do to get, I'm gonna just say men, to spill some beans, just get a fine ass chick with her boobs kind of up, some cleavage, because that nigga was on a date. Y'all heard him. He was on a date. He was I heard all the secrets.
And he ain't finna crack no other way unless he get spilling beans, ain't it?
No other way, Doc, for real. He spilled all the beans. She said one line that whole time. She was like, "Oh, is that right, huh?" He spilled all the beans. God damn.
Slim, could you keep classified information, even if it was a fine chick?
Yeah, I mean, depending on what's at stake. That's my take on it.
Doc?
Yeah, for sure. Because I think some of the information he can know, if you can't keep it, you'll find yourself with your looking at your brains on the outside of your head. You know what I'm saying? And since I like using mine the way it is, I'll probably just keep my mouth shut.
Kid?
Who's the organization? Are they Masonic secrets? Are they government secrets? Family secrets? You know what I'm saying? If they empire secrets, I got to benefit from keeping the secret. Like if we bodying shit and we doing a lot of shit over the world for my mental health, I got to be paid in baddies or I got to be paid in money. You know what I'm saying? So pay me in bad bitches or pay me in money. But for me to, my patriotism has a dollar amount to it. It ain't symbolic.
What you think his salary is? Look up his salary, somebody.
Like 400, 500,000. But then it's probably off books, Doc. It's a lot of stuff off books.
He getting some love off books too now, for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot of bread. It's a lot. So I'm saying though, I'll keep anything quiet off books if I can be if you supply me with a bunch of hedonism. Yeah, medicate me up. Baddies, cars, clothes. And I'm straight up. I'm keeping all the secrets.
Hedonism? That's all. Yeah, hey,
for sure.
You might be right.
For sure.
But I mean, but bro didn't even know he was getting filmed though. He was thinking he was on like a date though. You know what I mean?
She probably bad though. Some women is so bad, men just start talking.
Running their mouth.
She didn't even ask him.
Right,
she said, "What's your sign?" Nigga started talking about the fucking nuclear codes.
Man, he should have knew from the jump when she showed up if she was bad. Like, hey, what? I'm not being punked. The jig is up. Y'all give it up.
No, Doc. Most likely it's an escort. You know what I'm saying? Like it's an escort, but a lot of escorts is highly intelligent. She carrying a conversation with him, and he is enamored by how she looked. So he got to go to his trump card.
Nah, like, it says she an undercover reporter.
She was? Oh, so this was a setup then. I was about to say, seems like a setup because how she came prepared with a camera and all. I mean, so basically he got set up basically.
She probably smelled hella good.
Damn.
If you're watching right now, hit that subscribe button and press that notification bell to know when we go live. Skeptic, what's your final thoughts?
Don't spill the beans. Like if you're gonna go on a date, make sure that you're not being set up because that's crazy. That's wild. Also, I will say with the whole Southern poverty lie, at the end of it all, I have to agree with Ken on this part of it. Sometimes it's almost like we're being set up. It's like both sides are playing, and it's crazy because, I don't know if you guys heard the interview where Trump came out and said that we had given arms to protesters, and he was talking about like foreign people that we had given them guns and basically the guns got taken away. It just shows you that governments are corrupt and they will do things. They don't have to abide by our rules or our ethical guidelines that we think have to be followed. They really aren't followed. Like, I feel like morals kind of change with what the situation is, and it's kind of wild to think about it like that. So come back on Monday, because we will be back on Monday and Wednesdays. Thank you guys for coming. And I will say the chat was a little bit crazy. I was reading comments. Y'all were acting up a little bit. We need y'all to tap some more instead of having them little fingers. We need you to be liking the live and sharing it.
For sure. You're not gonna do the constitutional rights?
Yeah, don't let anybody trample on your constitutional rights.
For sure. Kamal, the newest member of the Man Cave, what's your final thoughts?
Man, skeptic, man, you gotta say that shit. We ain't on the panel that much, so you gotta say the constitutional right thing. You feel me? I appreciate y'all having me on here. You feel me? New member of the Man Cave, part of the new party and shit like that. Y'all hit the notification bell so y'all know when the new party go live. Also, if y'all want to come over my end, Kamal Johnson, y'all see the name right there. Type that in YouTube. Hit the notification bell. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate the chat. You feel me? Y'all were a little out of control, especially this dweeb cynical bass, man. Get your mama titty out your mouth, nigga. Damn. Anyway, both sides of the fence, like, both, how I feel. I'm apolitical, so I'm already skeptical of both sides of the party, from Republican to Democrats, but we focused on the Democrats today. And that little group, the SPLC, they named actually some black groups, like they call them black nationalists, they call them terrorist groups, and they named like a black library, y'all. So y'all don't think they send informants into our groups and shit? If they send it into the KKK, well, but they broke them off bread too. They didn't do that with our group. They was like, man, our budget for put the black informants in is $100K. That's it. It's like, God damn. But anyway, we know how it is. You feel me? The best way to do it is basically play both sides of the fence. Take both sides of the argument, and no matter what, you're gonna win. You feel me? Oh, cynical bass. Come on, bro. Your mama mouth is a manonizer, nigga. Talking about MLK like that. You better shut your damn mouth. Anyway, back to this though. Yeah, so that group, man, I mean, what can we say, man? It's the American way. Cash Patel, I don't personally think bro's a drunk, but allegedly he might be on some other substances. Maybe Adderall, maybe Coke. Allegedly. And also, I'm gonna say allegedly for everybody on the panel too. All right. We ain't trying to get, Tasha Cade and shit. You feel me? Yeah, bro. Y'all go follow the new party. Appreciate y'all.
Slim, what's your final thoughts?
Oh man, another great show, man. I'd like to say shout out to Miss Erica Schwartz for being appointed to be the leader of the CDC, first black woman. So we make a history. Nobody gonna give Trump his credit on that. So I figured I'll let that be known. But yeah, 85 Slim on all platforms, Man Cave.
Slim, you feel like you was right about everything tonight?
I'm never right about everything, but Trump will be. Man Cave.
Dot, what's your final thoughts?
Man, you gotta stop supporting these domestic terrorist groups. I think y'all could have paid for better security and did something that along those lines. I don't think the juice was worth the squeeze when you look at some of what happened in Charlotte and the money they gave those people. I think people need to take a tough look at the ideology of hate groups and the ideology of what they align themselves with. I don't typically care about people's personal preference on how they want to live their lives, as long as it's not hurting anyone else, as long they're not affecting anyone else, and that's just how they want to live their lives. I think people got to take a look at that.
Oh, he froze. Ken, what's your final thoughts?
My final thought is, man, put a price tag on your patriotism, bro. You know what I mean? Don't just ride for symbolism. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to give your body, you're going to give your time, you're going to give your family, you're going to put all that on the line, 10x that shit, you know what I mean? And tax. So get paid for your loyalty, get paid for your patriotism. If you got secrets of any body, corporation, any of that, charge. You know what I'm saying? Because nothing is more powerful than a secret. So if you got secrets and shit like that, that's your leverage to get out of the permanent underclass and set yourself up. You know what I mean? So put a price tag on your patriotism. Clock it.
For sure. Great show. Thank you to the cast. Thank you to everybody that came and watched. We'll be talking about the Kash Patel whole article situation with him being on drugs and him thinking he was going to get fired. So come back tomorrow for this. We do this every Monday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Have a great night. Man Cave.
Hello, history buffs. Ready for a journey back? Look at this encampment. The spirit of 76 is alive.
A true patriot savors these moments, but the fight for liberty calls.
To the encampment for freedom of our future.
For liberty. This is what American patriotism is all about. Look at these flags. They represent our fight for liberty.
The hour of our liberty is at hand. For freedom is proper. Secure our liberty. My fellow patriots, the hour of decision is upon us. Let us march forth with courage to secure our liberty.
Welcome to my colonial home. Today, Del Payne's work captures the spirit of we fight for independence. And our freedom. Greetings from the encampment. The spirit of liberty is strong. We will fight for our rights and our freedom.
Hour is late. We must enact. To the encampment for liberty. Through every change and challenge. We stand at the dawn of liberty, unshaken by the trials ahead.
Soldiers, the enemy is near. Front line, flapping.